Time for Ask the Mayor with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan, talking about city issues, business today. Good morning, Mayor. It is spring, but we had one last shot with winter yesterday. Wouldn't you know?
Morning, Doug. I would guess that we can always use moisture.
Yeah.
In
Too bad
March,
it wasn't in the form of rain.
Yeah, in March you like to see that rain, but I think all in all, this southeast corner lucked out compared to what you see in Lincoln up through Fremont.
I think we were spared a little bit.
Yeah, we were.
Snowfall total, 1 or 2 inches maybe here, and I saw some others that were upwards of 5 to 7, somewhere in there. Plus the wind with it, obviously a power outage problem for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Region, so.
I think we were fortunate that it wasn't about 4 degrees colder everywhere. I think there was a lot of ice on lines, a lot of ice on trees. I don't think we had very many power outages. I heard of a few.
Yeah, there were, I think, mainly north areas of the city. There were some sporadic ones, I think, that crews were out on yesterday.
And that gets difficult, if you don't have buried lines in. It could be that line that comes into your house, or it could be on the power poles. So all in all, I think we did. We survived this particular storm with 60 and 70 mile an hour winds pretty well.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that people may or may not know, and I know the electrical department does a great job of this, is we do tree trimming. Mm-hmm. And I think that preventative maintenance has really increased our reliability and decreased our outages.
Yeah. I saw where, and I think it was on an NPPD, Nebraska Public Power District report, that York and I think Seward had some really big problems. Of course, they had more snow up there, and I think they did have higher winds, too. I was seeing some wind gust reports of 65 to 70 there. I think we were more in the 55, 60 range here. Right. So it did vary quite a bit across the region. Depending on how lucky or unlucky you were, it was just one of those storms. But spring's here, so maybe that...
It is. Spring is here. We're I have always kind of used the benchmark that my winter coat's going away as of April 1st, no matter what. I'll just have to put on more sweaters.
Yeah. If it snows another foot on April 10th, you're just going to stay inside or whatever.
I think you and I probably both have seen snow. We snow up through May 1st or 2nd. I remember as a kid, May Day kind of didn't really happen very much because there was snow all over.
I remember one instance when I was really, really young in a small town called Holstein, Iowa, east of... Sioux City, about 40 miles, lived there. We were going to church. This is when I was a grade school person. We came out, and it was snowing on June 2nd.
Wow.
That's the latest I can remember.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if maybe somebody's got one that can top that, but that it didn't stay for long. It just fell and melted, but we couldn't believe it. So
absolutely.
That's weather. It can do anything in the Midwest. But all in all, things went pretty well, and we had a couple of power dips, I think, out here, but nothing major, and some areas maybe lost for a few minutes. But,
and I think the other thing that really helps is remember we went to I think it's called AMI system over, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, over a 3-year period where everything is, basically online notification. And so, in the olden days when your power went out, you had to make sure you could figure out how to call the power company and hopefully get through because other people are calling. But now we pretty much know instantly when somebody's power's out and can dispatch right away.
Or people had called the dispatch center and clogged up the lines, and which was okay. You're reporting an outage, but you pretty much know the outage is there anyway. So,
yep, we do.
So keep that in mind in future outages. Yep. There is a system that detects that. So modern technology is great in that regard.
When it works.
One of the things from actually is the BOSWA, the Beatrice Area Solid Waste Agency board meeting right before the council meeting on Monday night, rate increase at the landfill. Of course, the new project is going, and got a chance to go out there the other day, shoot a little camera video of that, and they are really going great guns.
They are, and I drove by there, I guess it was maybe 2 days ago before all the rain and snow, and not only are they going great guns, it's kind of neat to see how they form everything, and I guess I'm still a young kid at heart. I just enjoy seeing all the sizable equipment they're using, and there's some pretty good equipment out there and hauling dirt.
Yeah. Jason was telling me part of that is a retention pond that they're digging out there, but it's also, I think, the first phase is going to be just kind of next to that then, and that's being prepared too. The rate increase itself, adding much to the cost or not?
Well, not for residential. I think for residential, you'll see a change in your bill starting in April of approximately, well, it's a $1 a month, so it'll be $12 that our increase has been. We haven't had an increase in landfill fees or sanitary fees since 2022, I believe, or 21. I'm not sure which. And in the past, we've kind of had regular intervals of either a landfill fee going up or a sanitary fee going up. So I think the $1 a month is one of the things that you wonder how do you figure out, you pull $1 out of the sky, and we don't. We basically looked at what the landfill operations are going to cost us, what the bond repayments are going to cost us, and then we try to figure out from an economical standpoint what's the least amount of money that we can actually have to raise, because nobody likes to have a raise, and that came out to $1.
And once the bonds are paid off on about a $13 million facility, or roughly thereabouts, then you're just operating on the revenue you earn off the facility, and hopefully you can hold down costs. Or obviously you might have to increase now and then because your own costs go up too.
Correct. Inflation hits everybody, and I think the projected landfill was going to have a 60 or 70 year life expectancy, and so those bonds will be paid off in 30 years or less. So you've got 40 years of owning free and clear that property.
Well, it's interesting to watch it. And like you, I like watching the big equipment. It brings back your days of playing with the Tonka truck. So trucks long ago, and you get to see the real thing out there doing the work. And I always had admiration for those people that can do that kind of work.
Oh, absolutely. Too, there's talent there of having to get that done.
You're basically a big sculptor is what you are.
You are.
What's happening out there. So, well, one of the big topics Monday night, maybe the biggest topic, was the resolution that the council approved in support of eventually changing US 77 from 4 lanes to 3 lanes from Mulberry Avenue northward to Dorsey Avenue. Of course, it's actually not really the city's call. That is ultimately the NDOT that does that, if it happens. And it won't happen, if it does, for about 3 years or so.
I think the resurfacing project is scheduled for that stretch of highway in 2028. One of the things that I've learned over the past 2.5 years, that 2028 could be, that's a target date, and depending on funding and those type of things and maybe emergencies that come up, hopefully 2028 stands. Otherwise, it might be pushed to 29 or 20 or 30. I think everybody is familiar with the fact that we did do a Safe Streets for All, and I think we've talked about that. I know there was 2 public hearings there. JEO came down and did a nice follow-up on that, I think, at our first council meeting in March. And from a safety perspective, their number one suggestion was to make that a 3-lane. And they made a comment that really kind of stuck to me as I started watching traffic. The comment was, if you look at our 4-lane now, particularly when you go from about Monroe to maybe Court Street, you've got a lot of people making left-hand turns. And when you look at those left-hand turns, that 4-lane highway is actually acting like a 3-way just because of the way the turn lanes have. And this will have a turn lane. I know it's probably not the most popular decision, but I do know that when you have people that are experts who can tell you how to save bodily injury, I think, 6 out of the top 20 accident sites are right there. I think it's a great move. The other thing that's kind of, I don't know, I guess I call it weird, or it's antiquated, or it's been around for a long time, however you put it, we have to help pay for the highways that go through there, because they go through our city. And I think they pay us about $1 million a year for us to do some maintenance work on those roads. Which
is that the outside lanes you guys do, or is the inside lanes?
Well, we get to do both during the maintenance period, but during the construction or during the resurfacing,
it's based on the certain number of lane miles.
So since if we have a 3-lane highway coming into our city and leaving our city, our cost share is $500,000. If we can maintain the 4-lane highway, we have to pay for the 2 outside lanes, and that bill will be approximately $6 to $6.5 million. And so when you couple the fact that, first of all, safety, and then second of all, the huge amount of money that you'd have to probably figure out how to increase taxes for. I think that 3-lane highway is safer and more economical and puts the city in a better position down the road.
One of the objections brought up by a citizen during the meeting was the experiment that was tried several years ago, changing. And we were trying to remember the years. I don't remember the years that happened, but I seem to remember that that experiment involved only a part of US 77. And is that a fair comparison? Because here you're talking about going from Mulberry, which is the south edge of town past the bridge, south there, to Dorsey, which is, as you're heading toward the Indian Creek Mall there. Is it a fair comparison, I guess, to compare those two and the outcome of the experiment?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I certainly wasn't in Beatrice during that time, so I really can't speak to that. But I think that when you only have a section and you only try it for a short amount of time is different than when you have a longer section. I think the other thing that maybe a lot of people don't realize, and I'm hoping the state will take this into account, one of the concerns is the timing of the stoplights. Yeah. And I know that's a call
and how many you have, too.
And how many we have. As we redo Court Street, there's going to be a lot of changes that can move traffic even more efficiently through. And so those stoplights are something that I hope the state takes a look at as well to time them so that moves traffic through better. And I'm hoping they will do that.
Yeah. It's a little bit unusual, but it has happened in the past where stoplights have been taken out in town. There used to be one out here by what was the Cedar School, the preschool, which is no longer.
Right.
And I'm sure other towns or cities see them go once in a while. It doesn't happen often. You have to justify it by traffic means and everything. Right. But
19th Street's a perfect example, 19th and Lincoln. It first of all wasn't warranted to have one to begin with, and by the time Lincoln School moved the school to elementary, it really didn't fit the warranted obligation there. And quite honestly, we heard JEO say that as well, that a four-way stop is safer than a stoplight.
You've had 3 lanes on East and West Court for some time now, and I understand that traffic is probably less on that street, although that carries a lot of traffic too.
It does.
And it seems to, and I know I'll get differences on this from a lot of people, but I drive West Court every day, several times, because virtually where I work out here.
Right.
And I don't seem to remember as many accidents with that arrangement as when you had more lanes. Now, I could be wrong, I understand, but it seems to work fairly well.
It really does,
Yeah.
yes.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there right now who say, Kennedy, you have no idea what you're talking about. And that's fine.
And me as well, yes.
We're with Mayor Bob Morgan today on Ask the Mayor. We'll have more in just a moment. Back on Ask the Mayor today with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Did want to talk a little bit about the Lincoln and Paddock Lane school sites, but before we get into the projects that are going to happen there regarding residential development, you did want to bring up something regarding the Paddock Lane site where there's been a little bit of a problem crop up there.
Well, yes. On Paddock Elementary, there's a number of outbuildings. The main building is the brick building. Two of the outbuildings I think are gone. There's an outbuilding that construction company is dismantling, and I guess in their infinite wisdom, didn't get insulation out before you have a 60 mile an hour wind. And I think there were some comments about who's responsible and how did that happen and what's the quality of that particular contractor. And I just wanted to give the history that for the city, we have been in contact with that contractor and saying you need to clean up the mess. However, how that contractor was selected was from the Beatrice Public Schools came to us and said, hey, do you mind if we sell that building? Because we could use the money. And we said, well, that's fine. We hadn't taken it over. So Beatrice Public Schools put out the bids and basically hired this particular contractor. So I know a lot of people are saying, well, why did the city allow that to happen? Or why is the city giving somebody this bid when they're not qualified? The bottom line is we didn't do that. It was Beatrice Public Schools, and now we've got a mess that we're going to be involved in to help clean up because we were trying to be what I could always say a nice guy to allow the school to make some more money. And so I believe the contractor's behind So we hopefully the Beatrice Public Schools and the contractor will have a discussion to get that down. We are going to demolish the other buildings, and we did put that one out for bid. I think there was 8 or 10 bids on that particular project. And Fossler Excavation, who has done a number of work for a lot of different areas, is the ones that will be taking down the buildings that are the city's responsibility. And so it's unfortunate. I wouldn't want to live in that neighborhood with insulation all over. Like I said, I know that our community development director's already been in contact with the contractor contact with him, let's get this cleaned up. It's not fair to the neighborhood. And hopefully Beatrice Public Schools put a little pressure on that contractor as well.
You know, and just by bad luck with the winds being 50 to 60
Right.
miles an hour, I imagine scattered stuff quite a ways.
It did. I mean, it was just unfortunate,
Yeah.
But it shouldn't have happened. And I just wanted to clarify that, when you look at social media, sometimes facts aren't straight.
Sometimes?
And I'll go there.
Okay.
And that, it's at this point in time, we hope that the contractor gets this mess cleaned up for the neighborhood, and we hope that maybe Beatrice Public Schools puts a little pressure on him to finally get that building down.
The demolition work will probably, be completed on Lincoln first and then Paddock Lane go to that.
That is
basically
correct.
The way,
as-
on the other buildings, I mean.
As you look at the buildings, you look at age, we know it had asbestos in it, and so all the asbestos is being removed. Asbestos removal is done by a company who bags everything up. Matter of fact, I found out during that process that even when we load it up, if it's in a city truck, one of the people from the asbestos company has to ride with us to make sure that it's put in the landfill and buried correctly. So all the asbestos in the 2 buildings will be removed. Lincoln, they started first, so that's where we'll start the construction. We hope that will start toward the end of this month or the first part of April.
You got new names for them. Lincoln.
We do.
Lincoln is Heritage Heights, and Paddock Lane will be Corral Crossings.
That is correct.
How'd you come up with those?
Well, we have somebody on staff in our social media area and historian area that does very, very good work. And so we challenged Amanda to help us with some names.
Yeah.
Heritage Heights fits into that neighborhood. If you look at Lincoln and Grant and you look at those streets, they're all tied into presidents and history there. And I think the lanes are even, one might be Hamilton Lane. And
Hamilton Lane, and there was something Circle.
I don't remember.
Was it Liberty Circle?
Liberty Circle.
Okay,
So the theme there is all about heritage. And then Corral Crossing, you might ask, well, how'd you come up with Corral Crossing? Well, Paddock is actually a horse term. And so we tied that into Corral Crossing and gave them the 2 streets that we had to name in some type of horse theme there. So that's how we came up with the names. I think they're great names. And you might ask, why did we do that? Well, in our terminology, I call it Lincoln Street or Lincoln site and Paddock site. But if you look at a number of communities that have put in developments like we're putting in there, they all have a name.
Yeah.
And so when you pull into your planned neighborhood of Heritage Heights, it's going to be kind of nice because it's your area.
Yeah, if you go to the city of Lincoln, you see big signs out front of what the development names are and everything. So
Right.
It's kind of a source of pride. Hey, yeah, I live at this or whatever.
Correct.
Kind of an identifier to lead people to where you are.
Right. So that's how that came about.
Okay. And there are streets that access those that are the regular ones too. Like
Correct.
15th and Irving, I think on the former Paddock site. And then on the Lincoln, I think is it 20th? 20th Street?
Might be, yes, 20th.
And I think either Grant or one of those.
One of those
will
runs
go
through
into
there,
that.
right.
So,
And we're not going to change those names. I mean,
Yeah.
consistency of a street running completely through the city is important.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Back to wrap up, Ask the Mayor in just a moment with Mayor Bob Morgan. About 7 minutes left on our Ask the Mayor program today. Just kind of a note, the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast coming up April 8th, 6 a.m. at the Vintage Venue. I think University of Nebraska Assistant Athletic Director Haven Fields, who I believe is the COO of the department, is going to be the guest speaker.
That is correct. It's always, I guess there was a prayer breakfast for a number of years, and then there was a hiatus, and the first one last year, I think, turned out really, really well with Dr. Gold. And so I have 3 councilmen that are willing to put that together each and every year and believe that it's important. And so, we're glad to have it, and I think it's good to have it back.
What about tickets on that? You get them from council members or the city, or how
There's a
does
number
that
of
work?
any council member has tickets. The 3 council members that have done a great job has been Gary Barnard, Ted Fairbanks, and Terry Doyle. I'm sure they probably have tickets as well. I'm trying to think if there's any other outlets. I'm not sure.
Didn't know if they were available at city offices or not, or it might not be. But
Well, since it's not, I mean, it's the mayor's prayer breakfast,
Yeah.
but it's not connected with the city, and
I
there's no
see.
city
Okay.
money that goes into it. It's all done by selling the tickets.
and there's probably some law that deals with
There
that.
is, there is. So it is not. It's the mayor's prayer breakfast, and I will be there, but I will be there, as me, and there's no financial loss or gain from the city.
You just headed off another social media thing here.
I'd have.
Water park it has had rates that have been stable for a long time, but costs do go up. You have new minimum wage considerations for workers there, and season passes are going to go up a little bit.
They're going to go up $7 for the season. I think what the season runs basically from Memorial Day till
About mid-August or so. School gets
when
back.
school starts going. We haven't had a raise for a while, and I think $7 over that period of time is pretty reasonable. And at any time we know we have to raise rates from time to time. It's never one of the pleasant things that we do, but I think that'll put us in a really good spot.
You're also kind of stepping up the process of what do you do at the water park in the future in terms of improvements. It's at least 25, 27 years old, something like that now, and we always think of it as new because it replaced a very old pool at Riverside Park, but it's time to start kind of looking at what can be done in the future.
It is, and I probably sound like a broken record, but one of the things that I want to make sure we do is plan for the future. And so we went out and asked for requests for qualifications. We got 4 back from 4 companies that basically build water parks, and we're not starting that project tomorrow. But what they're going to do is put together a master plan. We'll have a meeting and we'll compare the 4 that are out there and choose what we believe is the best one that fits the city of Beatrice. And then what they will do is they will analyze what we have now, analyze what the trends are, because when you think about it, trends have changed in water parks from when we built that 20 or 25 years ago till today. And then we'll probably get some ballpark estimate. It's one of those things, if it happens in 2030 or 2032, there's always going to be more cost than what you think, but they'll give you some type of inflation adjusted rate about how much a new water park would be. I think that helps the city plan. And I think what we've learned with our consulting firm or our firm that helps us with getting grants in Washington, D.C., having a master plan that the people making the decision of where money goes is well worth it, because then they can see what you're actually going to do roughly. A concept, again, master plan concept is a concept, but at least that way they have an idea of where their money's going instead of just, it's going to go for a water park. Well, what does that mean? Yeah. And so we'll start that process. I'm sure that will take some time, and I'm sure those concepts will include public meetings and those type of things over the next year.
From a timing standpoint, if you do get to that point where you undertake a project, would that likely be past the payoff of the fire station bond, or would it be pretty close to it?
I mean, I would guess so. I guess it's really hard to answer that question until we find out what the master plan full concept is.
Don't look for construction tomorrow, though, or anything.
You don't look for construction tomorrow. No.
Yeah, it is a process that takes a little while. Airport revenue bond issuance of up to $700,000 approved Monday night, and I think if I remember right, it might be now or pretty soon. They're getting their apron fuel station project underway.
Correct.
Before too long.
That bond issuance is our share of about a $10 million project, and so that's a pretty good investment and a very strong asset for the city of Beatrice. And I think they're starting those projects, and I think we've done a really good job with the Airport Authority Board and now the Airport Authority Advisory Committee and the city. I think we've always prided ourselves on taking care of that airport very well.
It is a big business asset to the community, and of course for people who fly for the pleasure of it too, it's a nice thing to have kind of a quality of life thing.
Right.
For our
Well,
community.
and remember, one of those projects that were happening in that money is a new hangar.
Yeah.
Because we don't have enough hangar space.
Yeah, and that's part of what they get their income from, too,
That is
leasing
correct.
space as well. Maybe just a quick comment on it. One last thing to touch on today. You had planned to take a vote on a new strategic plan, which has been part of kind of a retreat and a consultant-aided process.
Yep.
That did not quite come off as planned because of some differences regarding wording used in the study. Where do you go from here on that?
Well, I'm going to sit back and take a look at it. I mean, one of the things that I've always tried to make sure that I am is transparent and try to have a whole integrity. So when you looked at that report, certainly all of the items that are, they did a SWOT analysis with its strengths, weaknesses, threats, those type of things, opportunities, all of the things were discussed in there. And if you look at the report itself, the first half of it is basically taking a look at our own strengths and weaknesses. And there's no question that every organization has weaknesses, and we have to figure out how do we overcome those weaknesses. So that report was written in a way to show what exactly the conversation was, because our consultant is the one that put that together, and I think did a very good job of summarizing our conversation for the day. And out of the strengths and the weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats, we put together 6, what I would say, goals to try to make sure we've done a good job there. So, for me, I think it was a very transparent, solid report. I think that sometimes government does a great job of massaging words that will hide things, and this certainly didn't, because we know we have warts. And so I need to sit back and figure out how to put that back and maintain the integrity of the report.
Okay. Mayor, thanks for being with us again.
Thank you.